In the glory days of sports car racing, the 12 Hours of Sebring was a stern test of speed and endurance. Let's relive the 1968 running of an American road racing classic. It's the 12 Hours of Sebring next on the Glory Days. Roger Penske knew his Camaros would need endurance racing modifications like quick-change disc brakes to beat the rival Ford Mustangs. Your telecast hosts, Chris Economaki and Phil Hill, open with a discussion of the driving challenge at Sebring.
Phil, what about the driver here in the 12 hours? Is the fatigue that is generated, does it come from driving the car or come from making himself behave?
Well, it works sort of both ways. There is really a definite factor of fatigue in regulating oneself to the limits that one has to have for the car on a long-distance race. Don't brake too hard, don't over-rev the engine and all that sort of thing. And if you set certain strong limits for yourself and then really stick to them, it's tiring in itself.
And Phil, there's 70 cars on the entry.
Yes, Chris, and here are the factory Porsches. One set the fastest qualifying time this weekend. These very reliable cars have 2.2-liter engines this year, and they're getting almost 230 horsepower out of them. This Chevy-powered Lola is one of movie star James Garner's two-car team. The Ford GT 40s, although a little passé, have quite a bit more power with their new Gurney Westlake cylinder heads. And this is the revolutionary new turbine-powered car. Fuel consumption is its major problem at the moment, but it could very well be the racing car of the future. In the new Trans Am sedan class, Carroll Shelby has entered two Mustangs. Don't forget, these started out as pleasure cars, and they're up against some very sophisticated racing machinery. Their major class rivals, of course, are the Chevy Camaros of Roger Penske.
And American Motors Factory Javelin team debuts today, too. The drivers are always interesting here at Sebring. A look at some of the stars, Brian Redmond of England on the left and Jack Hicks of Belgium on the right, who my 15-year-old daughter thinks is someone special. Swiss ace Joe Sippert, the fastest qualifier, and turbine driver and project chief Ray Heppenstall. Baron von Hanstein in the camera around his neck talks with his Daytona winner Vic Elford. He runs the Porsche team. And Jerry Titus captains the Mustang team. And driver-engineer Mark Donahue, captain of the immaculately turned-out Camaro team. Preparation is an important part of any automobile race, but it's one of the most important parts of an endurance race. Roger Penske, whose two Camaros are strong contenders, knows about that. What did you do, Roger, back home before coming to town?
Well, Chris, as you know, we have to take the complete car apart. That means chassis and all the suspension. It must go through Magnaflux and crack testing. Then our engines are completely rebuilt, brand new. We have new blocks, new heads, new valves, new springs. Everything is completely new in the engines, and they must be dyno tested for approximately 6 hours before coming down here. Then, of course, we have the test period, which we had 2 weeks ago when we came down and ran the car in for springs and shocks. So we feel we're ready for today.
And now the Le Mans start. Only one of two races in the world that uses this foot race start, here and at Le Mans. Joe Sippert, whose car's at the head of the line because he's the fastest qualifier, is first across the track. First in his car and first away. Beautiful job, eh, Phil?
He fastened his belt as well.
He moves out and gets a big lead. There's the Ford GT40, door being closed by the pitman, and Jackie Hicks pulls away. But the turbine is letting a lot of traffic go by.
Somebody forgot to light the pilot light.
Or maybe he's waiting for instructions from the control tower. But at any rate, he's going to have some traffic if he gets that thing started. Uh-oh. And it finally moves. And the only American car given a chance to win overall gets off late. And Sippert all alone in that Porsche, and followed by a second Porsche out on the circuit. For those of you watching on color sets, you can see the color-keyed noses of the factory cars. Green for Sippert, and here's the Elford Nearpash model, blue. Hugh Dibley's Lola, and two more Porsches at the head of the pack here in the early going.
4 Porsches in the first 5 already.
They're really moving. And now approaching that crazy hairpin turn.
Boy, this is always a jam up here. Look at this. A stupid 15-mile-an-hour turn, and everybody's got to go 20 miles an hour around it. Oops. Look at...
It's just indescribable jamming. And here's the only Ferrari in the race going over a cone.
One lone Ferrari and all this.
And here's Sippert, the leader, taking a left-hander, very fast, a very fleet driver, drives in Formula One cars too. Here's more action on the turn. Here's the French Alpine and the Lola. The French have high hopes for the Alpine in international competition. And now Sippert lets it out on the airport runway.
Boy, he's got a heck of a lead already for the first lap. Look at this.
He's really turning it on, and he makes the right-hander just before the start-finish line to come up to complete lap number 1.
Man, what a lead.
And we'll be back for more of the Sebring Grand Prix of Endurance in just a minute. continues to lead, but the Lola of Scooter Patrick has moved into second place and is gaining on the leader. There's the third place Porsche, Jochen Neerpasch and Vic Elford, the team drivers on the number 51 car. The James Garner, the movie star-entered Lola, is showing great speed on the straightaways and picking up on leader Sippert. There's the Turbine going by the Javelin.
Boy, the Turbine, for having got away 56th position, is now in about 9th or something like that. Fantastic.
Boy, he's done a great job, and there's a view from the driver's seat. Before the race, we had a chance to talk with project chief and driver Ray Heppenstall.
Ray, what special problems will the drivers of the Turbine car have in the race that the other drivers won't?
Well, we have to stop for fuel more often than the other people do, Chris. That's about our biggest problem.
Are there any facets of the car that make it easier for them?
Well, of course, we don't have to shift gears. We can keep both hands on the wheel at the same time. And it's a very easy car to drive. Very comfortable riding. Very sure and forgiving car. I think we have the finest handling car out here.
How does it lend itself to the Sebring circuit?
We're quite happy. We're down a little bit on horsepower, but you can't have everything.
And the Lola has taken the lead. Car number 9 has moved ahead of the number 49 Porsche. Scooter Patrick of California now leads with Joe Sippert of Switzerland second. A surprise happening, Phil, for an all-new car.
Boy, it certainly is. It's really amazing.
A brand-new automobile, a 5-liter Chevrolet engine, out in front here at Sebring in this endurance race. Oops, here's a Swiss Porsche spinning out in the chicane.
Rather a clever job of coasting back out of the way there.
Getting out of the other fellow's way. And he'll be back in the action pretty soon. And here comes the lead car. Number 9, Scooter Patrick doing a fine job.
Looks like this guy has sort of broken up the 1-2-3 pattern there.
And here we have one of the Porsches in the pits, a rare sight.
Here's a view of a Porsche engine, which is a sort of a treat. Look at all the fiberglass in there. The fan, the injector inlets, everything.
And driver Ludovico Scarpiati explains what happened. Apparently with the shifter lever, and the word is the car's out. And here's Patrick setting up for that first left-hand turn past the start-finish line, followed by one of the Trans Am cars. Really moving there, and the Turbine is in the pits. Loose throttle linkage, they say, the problem, but quick repairs and some more kerosene, and he's ready to go back out. Phil, what do you think an experimental car like this costs?
God, who could say? I know that the engine started, they say, around $70,000.
And here's the leader, Scooter Patrick, coming into the pits for his first fuel stop. The big 5-liter Chevy engine burns more gas than the 2.2-liter Porsches. The Porsche's still out there, due to move in front. And Patrick gets out and turns over to his co-driver, Dave Jordan, as Joe Sippert crosses the start-finish line to take the lead. And the Lola, in the sports category, goes out right after him. And Sippert really turning it on now in that notchback number 49 and Porsche 907 with a special body for this race, that aerodynamic body at Daytona, which they won, and heavy traffic now with the Trans Am cars deep in the pack.
Boy, look at the heat come off the top of the Turbine here as he goes by.
It's a hot automobile in more ways than run. It really runs out on the circuit, and here's trouble on a turn with two Camaros, Mark Donahue, number 15, and the McLean Boo car mixed up in a turn. And Mark's going to get back out of the action, but the driver of the other car is out. Apparently, he's got problems. Mark waits for a safe place to re-enter the action and picks up the pace. And now the number 9 Lola, Dave Jordan driving up in second place and pursuing the lead Porsche. The hairpin, a tough one for that car to handle as he gets off in the sand. They take the turn to the new chicane, and a Chevrolet, number 7, in trouble, heads for the crowd. Oh, what do you think happened, Phil?
I don't know. It looked like a little bit too much foot and not enough grain.
Well, fortunately, no one was hit. The flag marshal had to run to get out of the way. And now, Sippert lets the Porsche out, goes by Donahue on the airport runway, a Stingray, and closes on the number 3 GT car. We'll be back for more of the Sebring Grand Prix of Endurance in just 1 minute. Dave Jordan doing a beautiful job. Relief of Scooter Patrick in second place in that sleek Lola. Number 48 Porsche is out. The Mitter and Stommelin car. Here's the leader coming in, Joe Sippert. Going to turn over to his co-driver, Hans Hermann. So Porsche with 2 of its 4 factory cars out of the race. The Lola regains the lead. Here's Baron Pushka von Hanstein, the Porsche team captain on those retirements. You had all your cars finish at Daytona, but here you have 2 cars out. What happened?
I don't want to accuse anybody, but unfortunately both cars were over revved. If you look at the tachometers, they are both standing above 10,000 revs per minute, and that our engines don't like too much. So,
And the drivers now go to the Russian front.
well, thank God there isn't one. We might be able to send them to Vietnam.
And the Trans Am car is the leading car in the Trans Am category. The number 31 Mustang, handled by Jerry Titus, comes in for a routine pit stop. Up goes the hood, and the scrambling starts. And pitted next door are the Chevrolets. And here's Mark Donohue in the Camaro. These are the arch rivals. The action shifts from the track to the pits in this instant. Jack under the front. Now, notice in here that Craig Fisher gets in the car before Donohue gets out. The reason for that is Donohue will hand him the safety belt.
Looks like these fellows are changing brakes and tires as well.
Doing a fine job. Roger Penske in charge of the pit crew. Everything is precise in this pit crew. The driver goes over the wall. The tire comes the other way. The front end is jacked up, and it's down. And it looks as though the winner of this pit stop race will be the Chevrolet.
Well, it sure is. I mean, they were in last and out first. It looks like the Ford fellows haven't been eating their vitamins today.
Well, there's lots of racing left, and they're going to have to speed up their pit work if they want to compete. Roger Penske polices up the area, and then Ronnie Bucknam, having taken over for Jerry Titus, waits the signal to go out in the number 31 Mustang. And there he goes, a good bit behind the Chevrolet Camaro. And then it's what's to do next. And in the Penske pit, on the wall, what to do at each pit stop. Special lug nuts, brake pads, tools, tape, anything for an emergency. Back on the track, the Porsche comes down, and the turbine is right behind. The turbine seems to handle beautifully, doesn't it, Phil?
Sure does. Look at him go through here. Look at it go right through behind the Porsche there.
Sticks beautifully to the road. And the number 9 Lola, which led the race, parked on the outside of the hairpin. Driver Dave Jordan. There's his crew chief Lothar Mochenbacher running over. They've got problems.
Let's not forget that the rules state that only the driver can execute any repairs or carry anything from the pits that might be needed.
Well, let's hope they can get this car fixed, but other drivers on the circuit are in trouble as well. Here's Skip Scott, his Javelin out of gas, carrying 125 pounds of gas, and one of the Corvette drivers with heavyweight parts on a jack out in the sand. A far cry from being a romantic racing driver.
Boy, how would you like to have to drag that jack through the sand like that?
And Skip Scott flexing his muscles. He's just going to have to get to the gym next week. And this fellow, just exhausted. The glamour of the international road racer. Now the Lola's back in the pits. James Garner, the crew chief, wondering whether it's going to get fixed. Here he is. Well, Jim, you had an impressive start, but then trouble hit. Specifically what?
Well, in the first car, in the number 8 car, we had a clutch failure. And in the number 9 car that was leading the race at the time, we broke a steering arm, and the front suspension collapsed. The driver went out, came back in and got the part, and then went out and put it kind of with baling wire together to get it in the pit. So I think we'll probably be back, but it's going to take us a little time.
They'll have to hurry because Joe Sifford and Hans Hermany are setting a record pace of the number 49 Porsche, the number 29 Ford GT40. David Hobbs and Paul Hawkins now second, and Vic Elfert and Hilken Neerpash third in the number 51 Porsche. A better than 105-mile-an-hour average has been set so far in the Classic. In fourth place is the number 15 Camaro, handled by Mark Donohue and Craig Fisher. And close behind, in fifth, is the number 31 Mustang, Jerry Titus and Ronnie Bucknam up.
The thing that I find so amazing is that these two Trans Am cars, which are basically just touring cars, are so far up in the overall standings, Chris.
They're doing a magnificent job. Oops, here's contact on the track, a spin. And 2 cars turned around. They should be able to get back in the competition. Lucy Konowacki, along with Phil Hill, back in Sebring, Florida, with a 12-hour race well into the halfway mark. Setting a record pace of 104.9 miles an hour, the number 49 Porsche, leading as it has done most of the day. Joe Sifford of Switzerland, Hans Hermann of Germany, its driver. And in second place, car 51, another team Porsche, Vic Elfert of Britain and Hilken Neerpash of Germany, co-piloting this car. 29 cars out of the race at this point, including 2 of the Porsches, one of the 2 Lolas in the race, the French Alpine, the only Ferrari, and one of the 3 Javelins, retired with mechanical problems. Number 29, a Ford GT40, is third. And this car stole the lead earlier in the afternoon, only to run into problems with a girl driver in approaching a section of the course, the S's, right here. The girl bumped the Porsche spun, and the GT40 had to go off the road to avoid, damaging the front end. He spent 4 laps in the pits getting it fixed, and he's trying to gain on the leaders now. Whoops,
A spin by the turbine. This is an extremely safe circuit, you know. If a driver's in trouble, there's lots of room and very little to hit.
And here we have Mark Donahue in car number 15, the leader in the Trans Am category, lying 4th overall. Behind Donahue in 5th overall is his teammate, his team car, number 16, the other Penske Camaro, Joe Welch, a sportsman from Dalton, Pennsylvania, and professional driver Bob Johnson sharing the wheel on that car. So the top 5, Porsche, Ford GT40, and 2 Camaros. Speed again, 104.9 miles an hour at this stage of the race, a record. And the turbine. In the pits, out of the race. Rick Thompson dejectedly explains what happens. It's always sad to see a car that has put a valiant effort forth being pushed off the pit lane. Here's Ray Heppenstall. We're sorry to see the car pushed behind the wall, Ray. What was its problem?
Oh, we had a motor mount failure.
What do you think led up to that?
I guess one of them came loose first, and then another one broke. There's 3 motor mounts on the engine.
No way of welding it.
No.
Brands hatch neck.
Brands hatch next to it.
Number 29 GT40 in the pits, out of the race with suspension damage. It had worked its way into 2nd place when Paul Hawkins had to bring it in, and the pit crew now starts to pack up, getting ready to go home. Let's ask Paul Hawkins about that incident earlier in the S's. Paul, you had your problems out there. Just what happened?
We went into the lead and we were going away nicely. We came through under the MG bridge and a Javelin, I think it is, Javelin, pulled over, let a little Porsche 911 through, and the bloody women driving this Javelin pulled straight back again. I don't know whether they knew what they were doing or what. The Porsche hit them and spun. I tried to miss the Porsche by going up on the grass, but unfortunately he spun again, you know, sort of completed the spin and hit me. And of course it smashed the front up. We had to come in and repair it. That lost us the lead and put us, in fact, 4 laps behind the Porsche that's now leading.
What do you think about women drivers in a race of this character?
Well, I think someone should have told them the Sunday school picnic's tomorrow. They're here a day too early.
Leanna, Paul Hawkins has accused you of being a woman driver.
Oh, that's not very nice of him, but I know what he means.
What happened out there?
Well, as the car keeps on stopping all the time, sometimes you're in a bend or a corner, and the car you stop, so you can't go to the side because it's a narrow corner at that time, like the S's. You just can't go away from them.
He seems to feel that women drivers should not be allowed in the 12 hours. How do you feel about that?
Well, I know a lot of men racing drivers feel the same way like he does, but this is an exception. We just can't help the trouble we are having.
The car more than the driver?
At this time it is, I'm sure.
Car number 49, the Porsche, driven by Hans Hermann and Joe Sippert, averaging 104.2, very fast, just a little bit slower than earlier in the game, and they're 31 miles ahead of their teammate, Vic Alford and Jochen Neerpach. The sun is going down, and it's tough on the drivers, isn't it?
Going into the hairpin, it's very, very bad, Chris. Right in the eyes.
And now we'll be back in a moment with more Sebring race action. Lights are on and the night driving starts. The Mustang has just made a pit stop, which was a boon for the Camaros. Tough out there on the track at night, Phil.
Well, about the greatest boon tonight driving has been the coarse iodine light. Let's hope that they find their way into the regular car someday.
Well, I'm sure they will. Well, Phil, it's getting near the end, and those Porsches continue to sing their song of speed. And the 2 Camaros lying 3rd and 4th just got a good break with that late race pit stop by the Mustang. How does it look to you?
Well, you know, it looks like they're so darn close to breaking the record here. It seems a shame that they're being slowed down the way they are. It looks like the orders from the pits are such now that it might very well lose the race record by just a couple of hundredths of a mile an hour.
Phil, if you were a team manager, wouldn't you slow your men down?
I think I'd let them go just a tiny, tiny bit faster.
A few turns of the track before the checkered flag here. Moments ago, a Cougar crashed out of the circuit, was in 10th place, and allowed little MG to crack the top 10. And the number 49 Porsche, way ahead, 11 laps, 57 miles ahead of his compatriot, number 51. And there's the checkered flag, ending the 18th annual Sebring Grand Prix of Endurance. Hans Hermann and Joe Sippert, car 49, 51 second, 15 third, 237 laps of the 5 and 2/10 mile circuit, 102.512 miles an hour their average speed, and happiness everywhere. Here's Roger Penske congratulating his crew. The 3rd and 4th place overall finishes by his Camaros, 1st and 2nd in the Trans Am category, a remarkable achievement for this American production automobile. And here's Mark Donahue, one of the drivers, getting congratulated by the spectators, and his performance drew as many, if not more, cheers than that by the winning Porsche. And victory lane's a great place to be, isn't it, Phil?
Well, here's where you forget about the prize money, Chris. This is what makes it all worthwhile.
Gentlemen, congratulations. Was it a difficult race?
Well, any race is difficult, Chris. I think it was a hard grind all the way. We didn't have to let up too much. We had a good lead, but we kept pressing anyway, and the car ran strong to the end.
Craig, are you surprised that you finished as high as you did?
Well, of course, I'm very happy to be associated with Mr. Penske and his whole entourage. It's really an amazing effort that they put up, and they certainly deserve this victory.
But are you surprised that the car got 3rd overall?
I suppose so. I know we looked at the qualifying results and saw there were 12 cars ahead of us and began to wonder maybe just possibly 1 per hour.
Roger, when you came here, what did you really hope for in terms of an overall finish? Were you thinking about 3rd?
Well, Chris, I was thinking about those chicken feathers that Jerry Titus told me that I ate after Daytona because he didn't want to run there and I did, and I think I'm going to give them back to him after this one.
And Roger Penske is referring to the friendly rivalry that exists between the Chevrolet and Ford Mustang teams.